today. And the weather, after a fine evening in most areas, cloud and patchy light rain over northern Scotland will spread south overnight. BBC Radio News.
Now it's time to join Tim Marlowe for this afternoon's Kaleidoscope.
Hello, today one of the greatest radio works ever written.
To begin at the beginning.
We begin, though, under the shadow of Wembley Stadium in North London, in the former Alcan foil factory, which has recently been divided into 650 lockable storage units, some of which have now been turned into sites for visual and oral art installations in a project called Self-Storage. It's been devised by Brian Eno and Laurie Anderson, celebrated recording artists who frequently overlapped into the realm of the visual arts, in collaboration with students from the Royal College of Art, where Eno's now a visiting professor. 3 floors and a basement of labyrinthine corridors aligned with hundreds of red doors. Along the floor is a yellow trail line, and every so often an arrow points towards a door, inside of which all manner of objects, contraptions, sounds, smells, and even people can be found.
Well, this is extraordinary. In a container, I've just hit upon a giant black cauldron. It's just about as tall as I am. It's linked by a series of tubes. It's called Tube's Astral Traveller. And inside the giant cauldron is the artist, Michelle Griffiths. Michelle, this is the first time I've ever interviewed an artist who's wearing a wetsuit and what looks like a white surgeon's gown, immersed in a tub of water. You also have a mirror above your head.
It should make you think of things like cryogenics and flotation tanks and that sort of condition often on sort of science fiction films when people are sort of preserved on long sort of space journeys, that sort of thing. And also astral projection, which is where the mirror comes in. That's as if I'm sort of looking down from the ceiling as well. It's a projection of myself up there. So it's all pretty much a trance-like state, something between sort of living and not living.
And I can see, is that a snorkel I can see over there?
That's right, yes.
So you put that in your mouth and when the audience come in 5 minutes' time, and a lot of you will go underneath the water?
That's right, yes, I do use that to breathe.
It feels a bit indelicate, this, but do you mind if I put my hand in the water just to test it?
Go ahead.
It's very warm, actually. So after 2 hours, presumably, it's cooled down a bit.
It has cooled down a bit, but it's amazing how long it keeps up its temperature, really.
The show, in general, is about the notion of storage. How does this piece tune into that? I mean, maybe that's being over-literal, but I mean, how do you see it relating to the general concept of the show? Is it something to do with storing yourself?
Well, yes, it's taking self-storage extremely literally.
North Pole Road, next fish bar. So we're going over 1436. See some brick arch.
This has got a bright space, and suspended from the ceiling are 2 glass or perspex boxes. And inside the boxes, there's another box that's been opened, and it says, to room 5565, Acorn Shelf Storage, First Way, Wembley Industrial Estate, Wembley, HA9 OHB. Didn't forget to use the postcode. And inside the box, there's a series of polystyrene packaging blobs and a tape recorder with a microphone, and it's attached to 2 speakers. And from the speakers, there are various noises that sound suspiciously like motor engines. Now, this is a piece by Yannick Schaefer, and it's called Recorded Delivery. I mean, he's here with me now. Yannick, what happened to this piece? How did it come about?
Well, it sort of came about by being given a brief for the show, which was nothing to do with the space. It was the idea of doing a piece in a self-storage centre. I wanted to send a package from my bedroom to the actual space, 5565. And the recording that happens along the journey is very specific because it goes from A to B, and B is where we're standing now.
So basically, this thing was posted, and it was recording, and in a sense you bugged the journey or recorded the journey.
Yeah, there's 2. The one you just heard on the recording is me doing a commentary on the journey on my bicycle, because I'm a courier and I'm doing a fast journey. One over the other side of the room is a slow journey where I sent a sound-activated tape recorder through the post. So over a 15-hour journey when I sent it in the afternoon and arrived here in the morning, it switched itself on and off when it heard loud noises, and recorded an hour's worth of recording. And you catch like the post office workers swearing in the morning, and you catch cars and rustling of the package. So it's like the recording is its personality.
5225. Let's see what's in here. Open the door. Can't get into it. It's a little lock. That's horrific. It's really frightening. You open it, there's a whole bank of drills. One's at least a foot long, and it's going straight out towards my eye. I mean, I'm all of about 3 feet away from it, and there's a mesh that stops me going in. But it's pretty attacking, pretty aggressive. It sort of makes your eyes water, really, and other parts of your anatomy. They're pointed all over the place.
Yeah, but I made it back in one piece, and I'd just like to point out that zipping noise you heard was a postal worker zipping up a package and nothing else. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Maureen Paley. Maureen, it's a very playful and engaging exhibition, but are there serious undertones?
Well, I think that there are, though it's interesting because in some ways it's more because of the density and the space. I mean, the space is very overwhelming, and there's a lot to look at there. And I think that in terms of what's serious about it, there's a playfulness, but there's something kind of demanding about these pieces. I mean, you really do have to think, about them.
I love the way that it's a sort of cerebral game of hide and seek, that you're led along the floor if you want to follow the lines, but you can get lost, although it's not particularly frightening. And you can just stumble on works. I mean, I know it often appears as if we stage things on radio, but really we did just open that door, and there's drills hit you. There's another door that you open, and there's a fully cast black sphinx. It sort of looks like Tutankhamun that they borrowed from the British Museum, and it's like a sort of skeleton in the cupboard, except it's a statue.
Well, also the idea that they use smells, and there's kind of this idea that you're kind of involved in all of your senses. You're not just looking at things, kind of statically on a wall and appreciating it the way you might, another art exhibition. It's very interactive.
There's a lovely piece by Tim Noble where you walk into a space and there's a telescope, and then as you look out of the telescope, you're sort of scanning various buildings, and then you focus on a particular window, and there's a figure waving gently to you. There's actually a video montage, but it's a wonderful...
I think it's fantastic. I think that was one of the most successful pieces for me, and I think in some ways he then transports you out of the space, so that you're aware that you're in a very confined situation, but at the same time he's kind of taking you somewhere else. He's transporting you somewhere else. I quite like that you have to look. You have to search to find what is being stored in that particular instance.
Brian Eno obviously is a dominant figure in various areas of British cultural life, but it seems very healthy that someone like him is now a visiting professor at the college. How dominant is he and Laurie Anderson in that particular exhibition? I mean, do the students have their own voices?
Well, I think the students do, and I think it's a remarkable kind of project to have set up with them. I mean, there's a lot going on, and I'm not sure that all of it works, but I think the thing that's interesting with Brian Eno is that he is making a contribution on a number of levels. I mean, he's an artist, he's a musician, he participates in think tanks, out in San Francisco. He's somebody who is trying to kind of, I think, cross over different borders and barriers between, various mediums. So, to some extent, I think in this exhibition there might be a bit too much of Brian's work, as it were, for me. I mean, I could have seen less of it and actually seen more concentrated pieces and felt quite happy. At the same time, I like that he's playing a teaching role, and that his influence as a musician has been there with art students, not only, with people who are looking to make a musical contribution.
There's a number of strands that come together in this exhibition. I mean, as far as the broad politics of exhibiting go, there's been an exhibition at the Serpentine recently that's had very big press coverage. Take Me, I'm Yours, about interaction and the audience removing parts of the show and getting involved. Now, that's a much more high-profile site in the middle of the park in London. This is a site where thousands go every year, but usually to watch football matches or rock concerts. It's in an industrial space, or a former industrial space that's now a storage space, and we've got the Tate Gallery expanding into Bankside Power Station. There's some nice resonances going on. Does this sort of space, though, have a future? I mean, there were lots of people there when I went to visit it, but do you think it's an ongoing project that can keep happening?
Well, I hope not. I mean, I quite like that Art Angel, in their inimitable way, have found a space that's particular, and they've used it for this exhibition, and I think that it should somehow then be locked away in your memory.
It's a very important point, actually, to end with, that Art Angel, who I haven't mentioned so far, who sponsored Rachel Whiteread's House project, again, another very celebrated piece of public art, are rarely given credit, but all credit to them. Maureen Paley, thank you. Self-storage is at the Acorn Storage Depot next to Wembley Stadium in North London. The opening times are Tuesday to Friday from 7 to 9 in the evenings, Saturdays from 5 to 9, Sundays from 12 to 5, but it's closed on Mondays, probably to give poor Michelle Griffiths a rest from self-immersion in that water tank.
Siena, der Vorhang im Tempel, der sich zeigt, von oben Lord.